What's going on, Imperials? The Johto region brought us new evolutions, new types, and 100 new Pokemon. Some of them were great, and others were... there. My favorites have changed over the years, taking into account the multiple generations in which Johto appears. So really, a better name would probably be just my Johto team, since it's not specifically for the original Gold and Silver. And this is in no way the best team to use. It's not about that. My team is made up of my favorites. I don't care if it's strategically better to use a Fearow from an in-game trade. It's not even my Pokemon, so it just feels like watching from the sidelines while I help somebody else win. If we all only use the same competitively best Pokemon for our teams, then there would only need to be about a dozen new Pokemon introduced per generation. The first choice of starter for me has always been Totodile. While I find Croconaw to be infinitely inferior to the other two awesome metal stages, Feraligatr has always been my favorite from Johto. It's like the water-type version of Charizard. Big, powerful, reptile, dragon-esque creature. Plus, the Pokédex says that it's about 2 feet taller than the other starters. That may just be including the tail, but I like to think that it's just that massive. And any water type that can naturally learn Ice Fang is alright by me. With one of the best parts being that it's never at a real disadvantage in the game, being able to help in most every scenario in which you find yourself. The only time its weaknesses start to seep through are in the post-game Kanto gyms, at which point you'll have an incredibly strong team to balance it out anyway. And speaking of a strong team, my next pick is one of Godzilla proportions. It may not be one that is found very early in the game, but its uses more than make up for the lost time. Once the cute little Larvitar evolves into Pupitar, and then again, it leaves the pocket part behind and fully embraces the monster. Tyranitar is one of my favorite Pokemon of all time, and definitely my favorite of the newly added Dark types. It's one of those Pokemon that has an absurdly massive move pool and learns all kinds of attacks that it shouldn't even make sense to learn. But that only furthers its usefulness on the team. I do miss the ground typing, but Tyranitar makes the most of what it has. Not to mention, if we're talking abilities, Sandstream is one of the best that there is. Tyranitar also cemented what it means to be a pseudo-legendary. Dragonite was fine, but this? So many patterns were not carried over into Johto, but this one kept it strong and let everyone know what a special class of Pokemon we were dealing with. Which is why I always want to have one in Johto. Next up is one of the few Pokemon that can destroy Tyranitar with a 4x super effective fighting attack, and it isn't related to one of the Hitmons. The only other fighting type in Johto was also a bug in Heracross. Heracross was part of an initiative to make relevant bug types for trainers to use, since before that they were mostly pathetic. But Heracross still stands as one of the best bugs around so many generations later. And we wouldn't find anyone else with that unique typing until we went to space. Despite the 4x flying weakness, such a combination is rather potent, handling a wide array of opponents quite easily, especially when backed by such high power. And if you want, there's even a Mega now, though I'm not about that life. If you ask me, Heracross is one of the all-time great single-stage Pokemon, and if you can take the time and effort to find one, it is always well worth a slot on the team. For a long time, I thought I was obligated to pick Typhlosion for the Fire-type slot, and while it is still many trainers' first choice, there's one that I like better. One of the other amazing new Dark types pulls double duty as a Fire-type in Houndoom. Read pretty much any of the Dex entries and you'll realize that this is not a Pokemon that you ever want to mess with. Take for instance the classic, "If it burns you, the pain never goes away." Definitely one that I want on my side. Sure, dual Dark types brings a bit of a weakness, and believe me, it surprised me too, because it's not one of my favorite types. But when two Pokemon are so well designed and explained in their world, they can't help but both make the cut. And before you say it's not until the post-game, most loyal Imperials will know that I like to breed out teams beforehand in replays so that I can use them for the entire journey. So there. And even if it's not an actual team for gameplay, but simply taking the Johto roster as a whole, I would still gladly pick the Demonic Canine to be the firepower on my team. One of the earliest Pokemon revealed from Gold and Silver also happened to be one of the best. When Donphan graced our screens in the first Pokemon movie, we were all captivated. Or at least I was. Super cool elephant tire thing? You can take simple rolling as a concept, and it has the potential to be incredibly dull. But somehow Donphan makes it look intimidating. Pure Ground is a solid typing, especially as a counter to the newly created Steel type. Along with decent all-around stats, Donphan can learn numerous life-saving coverage moves. Not to mention being a stealth rocker and a rapid spinner has kept it a competitive favorite to this day. I'm such a fan of this Pokemon that the first ever Donphan I caught was near the very first of the Pokemon that I trained all the way to level 100. Really, there's nothing inherently special about Donphan within the Pokemon world, but the way it's been handled in media forms, and the fact that it's proven itself a capable battler, makes it a no-brainer to add to my team in Johto. And for the last spot, I would really like to begin by pointing out the distinction between my favorites and a workable team. There hasn't been a difference so far in the other regions that we've been over, but the premise of these was to outline a workable team that I could actually use. Umbreon is far and away one of my top favorites, but having a third Dark type wouldn't help anyone. And the same goes for Raikou. For some reason, I never really use the legendaries after I catch them. I don't know, it just kind of feels like cheating to me somehow, so he's out too. Looking at my top 10, or 12 I guess, and taking the rest of the team into account, eliminating type repeats, I'm only left with one option. Girafarig is a Pokemon that over time has crept into my favorites among Johto. Even I'm not entirely sure how it got there. This is another single-stage Pokemon, and an odd one at that. Girafarig has always raised a few eyebrows for the second head that it has as a tail, with even its name pointing to this as a palindrome, being the same forwards and backwards just like him. People were excited when Oranguru came out because of its typing, with neutral fighting and being immune to Ghost. But they seem to forget that Girafarig had it beat by years. And after I used one in an actual game, I was pleasantly surprised by just how solid it was in battle. The Psychic typing proved very powerful, while sporting a decently diverse move pool characteristic of normal types, and respectable physical attack for a Psychic type as well. So, if you've unfairly written off this Pokemon before, why not give it a try? Although it may not be in the topmost tier of my favorites, if the point is to develop a balanced team, I can't ask for much more than to add this long-necked Pokemon to the squad. So, those are the Pokemon that make up my ideal team in Johto. Which Johto Pokemon are your favorites? Let me know down in the comments. Also be sure to leave a like, share this video, and subscribe so that you too can become an Imperial today. And we'll see you around next time!